Ani, Sego, Tibetan Dinjnikas, Quebec Indinjiba, Enterprise Inda, and Loving Spoonful Indanoki. Welcome to Cooking Behind the Scenes for Kingston Indigenous Language Nest, and in this particular case for Cooking in the Nest for our October 31st land-based outing. So we just demonstrated how to make pumpkin puree, and if you happen to be carving pie pumpkins or other types of winter squash for the occasion of Halloween, then you can save the seeds on the, that are on the inside and use those as a healthy snack. So here I've scraped out the pulp and the seeds. Some of these could be saved and used for seed next year. So if you come across a squash that you particularly like, then by all means, you can give them a wash and dry them and save them for next year's use. So basically, I'm pulling as much of the seed away from the pulp and putting them in water. I'm just trying to reduce the amount of mess I'm going to have in my bowl of water here. The water will help separate any remaining pulp from my seeds. At home, when we cook up squash, we cook the whole thing and eat the pulp and the seeds. Because it's like eating the whole fruit. Here we have most of the pulp separated from the seeds. So the pulp can be composted or discarded if you're not using it. And like I said, in my home we tend to like eating the whole plant if we can, so we do eat that. So here you can see how much cleaner these are. So the next thing to do before roasting them is to make sure that they're dried off. So I'm just going to scoop them out and put them on this paper towel I have here. If there's a tiny bit of pulp left attached to the seed, that is not the end of the world in my books. And once they've dried off, we're going to prepare them for roasting. So now my seeds are mostly dry. In an ideal world, I would let these just sit out on the counter until they're nice and dry. But for the purposes of this demo, we're going to go ahead and proceed. So I've patted them down on both sides. And this is an ideal activity to be doing with family and or friends. Something to do in community where you can make the load easier, share stories, connect with your friends and family members while you're doing work. And you can process quite a few pumpkins and squash and get a lot of seeds ready for snacking in the winter. So for me, my preferred way of working with food is when I'm working with others, and it makes the load a lot easier. So we're back with our washed and dried pumpkin seeds, and we're going to add sunflower oil. So I like to use sunflower oil because it's more traditional, but you can use any oil that you have on hand, whether it be cooking oil, corn oil, olive oil. But here today we're using sunflower oil, and I'm just going to put a tiny bit because my tendency is to pour too much and then it makes them oily and it's not so good. And we want to add a little salt, a little sprinkle of salt. And then the other, I could add pepper, but today I'm adding sumac because sumac, we can forage this in our region, and sumac has a nice lemony flavor to it. So I'm just going to toss these together. And you could use any spice you like, barbecue spice, whatever. If you have smoked salt, you can use smoked salt. I'm just using table salt today because that's what I have. So now I'm going to make sure that I spread them out evenly on my parchment paper. And I'm going to pop them into a 350-degree oven and roast them for about 30 to 45 minutes until they're nice and crisp. Now, times are always guidelines, so if they're, I would check them before that. I like to always check them, let's say this is a 30 to 45 minute recipe, I'll check them at 15-minute intervals. This oven that I'm using here today burns hotter than the one at home, so I need to be careful. So, and that's all it is. And you can store these in an airtight container if you can manage to get them from the oven to the container before they all get eaten up.